Hey everybody, we're ready to make some bagels. I'm here, Charlie's here. Say hi, Charlie. Yeah. And we are ready to make some bagels. Let's do this. All right guys, I'm feeling pretty good about my starter now. Let's check it out. It's got little bubbles on it. Ooh, I got big bubbles and little bubbles. That's a good sign. So that's ready. It's doubled in size. And so I'm gonna go ahead and add this as my first step to my bagel recipe. So this is my recipe that I'm gonna go off of. We're gonna do 150 grams or 3/4 cup of bubbly active starter. Then I'm gonna have 250 grams or a cup and a little bit more, a couple tablespoons, or a couple teaspoons, sorry, of warm water. All right, if you have a kitchen scale, you put your bowl on there, and then there's a little tare button there, like or a T button. Push that, take that down to 0, right? And now we're just measuring the starter. So for me, I'm gonna double my recipe. I'm gonna do 300. A little bit over, and I'll just scoop some of that out. All right, so we're down to 301. We're gonna tare it again. And we're gonna add some warm water. I just have a little cup here. Warm water. A little bit more. So you can see that my starter is good because it's all floated to the top here. That's that float test I was talking about. So now I'm just gonna kind of mix that up. So a lot of the things say use bread flour. If you don't have that, you can use all-purpose flour. I use bread flour. I think it makes it a little bit higher protein content in it. So there you go. All right, here comes the flour. Mix that up a little bit by hand. And then we're going to set that into our mixer with the dough hook, or you can just keep mixing it by hand. But if you have one of these, it makes it pretty nice. I'm going to set it on the low setting, and I'm going to let that go for 6 minutes. I'm going to refeed my starter. We used a lot of it. There we go, pretty close. Tap, and cleaned up a little bit, and put them in the fridge. All right, this is looking pretty good. Give them 1 more minute there. Let's see. That looks good. So for bagels, this dough is it's a pretty dry dough. It's not that wet, and easily forms. It's not that hard to mix up by hand. If you didn't have a hand mixer, you could do that. But I'm just gonna put it in the same bowl. And I'm just gonna cover this up lightly, and I'm gonna let it sit overnight. It's about 9 o'clock right now, and so I'm gonna get up at about 5:30 or 6, this thing will be doubled in size, kind of like our starter. This will be up over the top of this thing. You'll see it in the morning. It'll be all poofed up, kind of, and yeah, we'll have a lighter, fluffier dough that we'll use for our bagels in the morning. So I'm just gonna cover it up and go to bed. Night-night dough. 6 a.m. Here we go. Let's see. Ooh. Nice. Poofy. Ready to go dough. So I just take my dough out, kind of spread it out a little bit. Here on the table, on the counter. And I've got a little handy dandy fancy thing there. You don't need that. You can just have a little pizza cutter or a plain old butter knife. It's not hard to cut these things. So I just kind of make it into a little rectangle best I can. If you have like a cool like mat that has like, you know, like measurements on it, that can make it a little bit easier. Make sure you wash your hands before you do this. All right, so this can be just kind of rough, best you can. Try to get it kind of even here. Just trying to make it into sort of a rough rectangle, you know, because what we're going to do is try to divide this up into equal parts for our bagels. All right, so I'm just going to kind of cut this. I'm making 16 bagels this morning, so obviously we're going to have to readjust a few of these. You're like, that one's small. This one's huge. Well, you know, doesn't take that much time. There you go. So I like to kind of like fold the ends in, because then you get a little bit smoother, like top like that. So like for these ones, like this is a good example. Kind of like more like tuck these like corners in a little bit, right? Kind of like a little pouch. Regular cookie sheet. I use some parchment paper, makes it a little easier, and then I just use a little spray. All right, so here we go. You got, this is like your single batch. It'd be 8. I doubled it because I have 16 today, but 16 nice, pretty even balls again. All right, so these guys are just going to sit here. They're going to poof up just a little bit more, let them rise a little bit. I did kind of a long rise. Meanwhile, I'm going to set up all my other gear, so I'm boiling a little water. Got a couple of bowls, and these are for my toppings. I'm just going to set this up. This is cinnamon sugar that I made, just mix cinnamon and sugar. This is just a little everything bagel topping. Again, something I love about baking while I'm waiting, I'm going to clean up. So we'll just clean this little bad boy up with some water. Nice. When baking, you do want to make sure that you clean up after yourself, because that dough will get hard as a rock, you know, if you leave it out for a day or so. All right, let's check on these guys. My water's boiling. I'm set up. I'm ready for my next step. These guys aren't going to look that much different. I'm going to just be puffed up a little bit. Like this. And I just kind of go like that. Work it. Okay. All right, now we're just gonna bring these on over here to the stove. And we're just gonna boil them. So I'm gonna pop these in. I put a little bit of, about 2 tablespoons of honey. I didn't show you guys, but I put about 2 tablespoons of honey in this. And I just kind of whisked it in. And it just kind of gives the crust a little flavor, and yeah, so that's kind of fun. All right, there we go. So we're just gonna drop a couple of these in at a time. I can fit about 4 in on this pan. First, they're gonna be colder than the water, right? And if you just kind of stir them though a little bit, they'll float up to the top, see? But you just kind of let them sit there on that side for about 30 seconds. I usually use a slotted spoon for this. And I'll just flip them. 2, 3, 4, and 30 more seconds on this side. Now when I'm starting to do this, I'm going to go ahead and preheat my oven to 425. Okay, ready. I'm just going to give them one More flip here. See, they're a lot bigger and poofier. They're looking good. A little bit of texture on the outside. Okay, I'm just gonna kind of take them out. Let them kind of excess water off. Just set them down a little. Alright, well these ones are boiling. I'm gonna put some toppings on these bad boys here. So I'm gonna make these cinnamon ones. So I'm just gonna take this. It's not totally hot yet, I just let it cool down a little bit. Turn it upside down in there. Push down on a little bit, rub it around. And yummy. So I'm gonna do some everything ones out of this. So again, I'm just gonna plop it down in there, push down a little bit. If they're wet on the top, all those seeds will stick to it. I'm just gonna do the top, maybe a little bit on the side. Nice everything bagel there. All right, so I got a little variety here of everything, cinnamon, and these will be plain. And we're just gonna kind of put them back on, separate them out a little bit, and then pop them in the oven. There we go, ready to rock. All right, so 24 minutes on the clock, counting down, 24 minutes. And you'll have some nice, yummy bagels in there.
Swim shirt, that's for if you go swimming.
I don't think you're gonna be going